Howdy everybody, we're back with some more RPG horror stories. Let's jump into our first story. Our first story today is by Gargara98 and is titled My DM Might Be Into Weird Things. Hi everyone, I've been playing in person with the group for about 6 months now. A constant issue I've seen is that none of them actually know how to properly play the game. Like they know about 75% of the rules, but I've ignored this since it's not that big of a deal, especially if we're still having fun. I've been playing D&D in general for about 6 years now, both as a player and a DM, so I like to think I know the rules pretty well, just for context. Anyway, we first played with a first-time DM, and sure they made mistakes here and there, but who hasn't, right? I gave them tips here and there, and all was well. Until the second DM came in. Second DM, let's call them B, has apparently played for many years and seemed like they actually knew how to play. So I was excited when B said they were going to DM after the first DM. B told us to make level 20 characters and that we're going to play as vampires on this short campaign. I was excited, to be honest. Seemed fun, the idea of being vampires and the challenges that could bring. How quickly that excitement fizzled out. First, we're not even real vampires, we're Spawn, and we have to obey all commands from this evil vampire queen. Any refusal to obey, it's met with, "You have to actually obey because you're a Spawn," eliminating all sense of agency, making this game into a straightforward do this, do that type of game. As a one-shot, sure this will work, but a whole campaign where all we can do is what this queen tells us? Weird gimmicks like this are not good for campaigns. One-shot, sure, but not entire campaigns. Also, level 20 in their Spawn still? Like, how powerful is this queen vampire? Are they like godlike or something? Not to mention, this queen is a PCB, has played in the past. This is where it got weird. We're Spawn and we have to feed on blood now, so B describes as beautiful slave women are brought before us to feed. I attempt to not feed, choosing to roleplay the internal struggle of my character not wanting to be a vampire, so he'd rather starve or feed on animals. Just for B to then say, I have to obey the queen, forcing my character to feed on the slaves. But then I also get less buffs from it since I resisted. The slave thing really got to me. Just felt like some weird fantasy the DM has. Oh yay, a self-insert from a previous campaign. The feeding on blood and resisting can be a really interesting RP mechanic for this PC to have. It sucks that the DM is so driven to make them consume human blood though. Also, it is a bit weird for them to specifically note that they are beautiful slave women and not like just, I don't know, regular people. The scene description definitely has a more sensual twist on it. I am a bit surprised that OP's like backstory on like, hey, he's a vampire spawn, but he's really resisting being a vampire spawn still, so he's not going to want to feed or something, wasn't like relayed to the DM in the backstory or something, because that would make more sense then for like the DM maybe wouldn't be like, they're trying to resist. Also, if you're gonna be playing in a campaign where you're utilizing, it's one thing to have slaves in a campaign and you're like saving them and stuff. That's usually, I think a lot more people are kind of cool with that and above board. But when you have slaves in a campaign and you are actively, as the PCs, benefiting from the utilization of slavery or using them to, I guess in this instance, like feed on them if you're vampires, some people might have some concerns with that. So it doesn't hurt as a DM to kind of just float the idea out there, just be like, hey, in this campaign, it's being very grimdark. Slavery will be a thing. Your PCs will be benefiting from the, the fact that slaves are there doing things like for you. I'm not necessarily doing things meaning just like feeding, but like, slave labor or whatever. Like, it doesn't hurt to just give that little heads up, just that way your players, because some players really don't, like, they really don't want to have to be like involved, where they're like, I don't like being involved for I am like benefiting from slavery, which is understandable. Some might think that's a little overboard, it's a game, but it doesn't hurt to just let people know so that way they can make that decision if they're comfortable or not with the various themes that are going to be touched on. Also, I used Force Cage on a werewolf just for the werewolf to destroy it with a claw attack. I call up the DM saying they just can't break the Force Cage like that, and it's met with, "That's how powerful these creatures are. This is level 20. It has to be challenging." Bruh, indeed. Perhaps this werewolf has like a dispelling magic claw or something like that. I can understand having new features to a creature to make them more difficult or differ from the original stat block. I personally do this in my campaigns all the time, but it needs to be done well and it has to be somewhat balanced. If you're going to have anti-magic claws, so that way it's not a gotcha, describe how when a spell potentially hits this creature, let's say this creature got hit with a firebolt or something ahead of time, if that person has a high passive perception, perhaps they notice, or that player, another player nearby who has a high passive perception notices, that the claws almost seem to push away the arcane or weave when the fire, bolt or ball hits them. or let's say they get hit with a full-on fireball, something that would like ideally engulf the whole body. You'd note like, hey, like the fur, all the fur except for like the claws oddly seems like, or the hands like oddly seem burnt. So then you have this idea that maybe there's something weird with the claws. The rest of them takes damage, but like the hands are completely unfazed or something. Something like that. Give something to make your players wonder what is up. That way it seems less like my bad guy has the power to counter your power, and more this thing has more depth to it. I need to think about like on a tactical level how to fight this thing. Overall, I don't know if we have enough here to really state that this DM has a weird like kink or is into weird stuff. If this was like a continuous thing that happened over and over, then I could see it. Or if the DM was always describing the vampire queen as feeding on some like voluptuous slave woman or something. Those are some signs there might be a weird kink being forced on the party. But overall, just in general, players and DMs, just don't force your kinks on people. No one's ever happy that somebody just out of the blue forced their kink on the rest of the party. Our next story today is going to be from user Weekly Debt 1469 and is titled How to Deal with Players Who Monopolize Roleplay and Players Who Care Only for Roleplay. I was wondering how, as a fellow player, I can handle players who monopolize the spotlight in role-playing and players who care exclusively about role-playing so much that they don't even know basic mechanics, health and spell slots, counting, etc. Edit for extra context. Me, I balance RP in mid-maxing. I assume they meant min-maxing. Maybe mid-maxing. Is mid-maxing a thing? I've never heard of mid-maxing. I will RP. I love the rule of cool, and I will try to make my build optimal-ish while staying faithful to the character's background story. The roleplay spotlight hog. At least he knows some basic rules and mechanics so he doesn't interrupt with stupid questions often. Even though he plays D&D for a decade and D&D is his whole life, sometimes he just does to ask what check he needs to pass to do something random he came up with, but for me this is acceptable. I don't mind when people put more effort into RP. It never hurts to ask. The DM's the one who's going to make the call on what kind of save you make or check you make, so don't ever make like an assumption. You'd be like, I persuade, when that may not be an option. Or how you're wording it may not be a persuasive role, it may be an intimidation role. So it never hurts to ask. Skill-wise, he plays a little mid toward bad, but for me this is acceptable as well. But his character always has something to say, always involving himself in other PC side stories, etc., and sometimes interrupts other people's RP to jump in as well. The complete noob. Mind you, she's played D&D for years and has a ton of D&D merch, but she knows zero rules and mechanics. During combat, she will always ask questions about basic stuff, and her RP during combat and the things she asks what her character can do would make you think her character is a god and not a level 4 cleric. Laughing emoji. She always resembles the Spotlight guy a lot when it comes to RP and Spotlight hogging, and as I mentioned, we need to keep track of everything for her health, spell slots, what abilities she has, etc. Even in RP, she is straight up delusional. We play Strahd. She has a Rizless cleric with no intelligence, and she wanted to riz up one of the brides in hopes she would be accepted into the castle and assume the role of a conniving eunuch that spreads discord, multiple laughing emojis. This sounds like a job for the DM. I'd personally go to the DM and just let them know that you feel like you're having to fight for spotlight time and ask the DM to help rein it in. The DM should be able to go to these players separately and remind that 1, they need to keep track of their shit, 2, they need to learn at least some of the freaking rules, and 3, let others role play. It's one thing to RP alongside a player to help them shine while they're in the spotlight. It's another to smother and steal it. If someone is having their moment, let them have it. Add little things maybe here and there, but let them be the driving force. As players, it is important to try to be mindful of others. I can understand being excited and wanting to participate in the game actively, but everyone should have a chance to RP or make decisions. If the DM can't or won't, like step in and do something about this, you can always, as a player, try something. When you do, just keep it light. Don't be very aggressive. Just note that you feel like you're having trouble getting spotlight time, and could you just like ask your player, like the other players, like, hey, can you guys just be a little more mindful when you're playing? I feel like I'm having to fight for spotlight time, and I'd like to get a chance to RP. If they respond positively, great. Maybe they don't realize they're taking up that, spotlight. Maybe they don't think people are wanting to do it, or they're just so excited they're trying to jump in. If they tell you to kick rocks and your DM won't do anything, then it might be time to leave the table, because you're just going to run into the same issue over and over again. DMs, though, overall really need to be mindful of this stuff. The DM controls the flow of the game. The DM can very easily go, hey, John, I'm going to stop you real quick. Bob was actually RPing here. It's kind of Bob's second. Like, Bob's working on something right now. Let's do that, and then we'll come back to you once we're done. And if you want to do something, we might be able to, you know. Or sometimes what happens is their players like go down a certain path. So like John's like, I'm going to go to the market and I'm going to get some health potions, you know. And then Bob is doing some role play, and then John's like, oh shit, role play, and goes to like jump in. And sometimes as a DM, you go, no, John, you need to stop. You are actually off buying potions right now. Bob here is RPing while you're away doing that. So you can either not go get potions and you can be here for this moment, or you can get your health potions. And now they have to then weigh the, do I want to be able to get health potions, or do I want to be able to maybe participate in the RP here? And that way you can kind of, that helps nip them in the bud as well. But the DM really ultimately is the driving force behind a lot of this. They are the ones who control what happens. They allow things to happen. If your players are monopolizing spotlight from one another, you are the one who can stop it. And you need to be the one to stop it. And it's not aggressive or confrontational to tell your players to just simmer down and just be like, hey, we're letting this other person have a spotlight for a second. Like, give us a minute. Our last story for today is going to be from user Unhappy Dragonfruit 63 and is titled "The DM Believes My Character is OP." I recently had issues with a first-time DM, let's call him John. John, despite warnings from myself and our group's other DM, John has decided to run a completely homebrew campaign at level 8. John has only run a few one-shots, but all have been homebrew and all present NPC abilities way out of the normal rule set. For example, a character with infinite movement and mobs rolling d20s for damage. His new campaign takes place in more lawless lands, and I have worked on and off for months on a Blade Singer Wizard. I wouldn't say my character is weak, but he had a decent stat spread, 16 dex, 18 intellect, 14 con, with Mage Slayer and the Poisoner feat. 1-2 was the race. Spells are all melee or defensive spells, such as Mage Armor, Shield, Shadow Blade are the main spells used, with poison spells filtered in to fit the snake theme. We had a session show in session 1, and this wasn't brought up until mid-session 1, during which time the party had spent 2 months of in-game time without being able to make a single decision other than an ultimatum. He believes my character's OP due to having a potential AC of 25, starting with a 10, plus 3 dex, plus 3 from Mage Armor, plus 4 from Blade Song, plus 5 from the Shield reaction spell. I've tried to convince him that that's all resource dependent and the character has a weakness based on saves. To make things easier, I told him I just wouldn't play the character. So it sounds here like the DM did approve the PC initially. So if so, why are they complaining now? Some people will build strong PCs, which may include building something that has like a 20-ish AC to 25 AC if they really use a bunch of the resources depending, you know, on their build. And also at level 8, 20 AC, I'm guessing 20 AC here is just kind of the standard because, you know, plus 5 from the shield is a reaction use. Blade Song, I haven't done Blade Singer a whole lot. I think that's something they just kind of consistently get. I mean, even if not, then he's down to 16 AC here. But even like a 20 or 25 AC, 25 AC is obviously quite strong, but like at level 8, a 25 AC using the shield spell, or like just like a 20 AC in general, are not broken. They're definitely strong, don't get me wrong, but they're not broken. At level 8 in D&D, like 5e specifically, you're generally starting to get on the power swing of going like up and you're building into your like your main class abilities. At this point, you usually have multi-attack, like extra attack and stuff if you're a fighter or something like that. Like you're really starting to come into your subclass and stuff by like level 8 to 10. So like them being stronger around there is not a bad thing. If the DM approved the PC and it isn't breaking the game completely in a way they did not anticipate, they really should just let it slide. A high AC periodically while having to dump resources in to use it, but crap saves is that player's Achilles heel. So if the DM wants to give them a challenge, exploit the saves. I have in my campaign, I have multiple at this point because we're high level party members who are high AC, but I had a barbarian that is high AC throughout a lot of the campaign. That mother trucker does not make wisdom saves very well. If I want him to have a tough time, somebody's making a wisdom save, and that works. That's a good way to make it like, that's a good way to add some difficulty, is you chuck a save in there, you know? However, part of me wants to bring in a true defensive character to show him he's wrong and to be petty. I don't know what I should do. He told us he intends to challenge us, but would rather deal with powerful characters by nerfing them with homebrew rules. I've advised him level 8 is super ambitious for a new DM, let alone all homebrew. How should I approach the situation? John has completely dug his heels in on his vision and will not listen to any concerns. How should I go about new character creation? Okay, for a first time, like a first full campaign, level 8 starting is very ambitious for a DM, especially if it's homebrew. And I often recommend for your first full campaign, don't do homebrew because there's a lot you have to do. Get a book for a setting. I personally love using the Critical Role books. I enjoy the world. I don't watch Critical Role a ton, but I do just enjoy the world building that occurs in it. So I have used both the Taldore book and the Wildmount book. They're both really good. I highly recommend them. They give you a nice backdrop for the setting. They give you a world. It's a world that people, if they're involved in D&D, probably are somewhat aware of. So that way it's easier for them to maybe like ease into it. And you have a book to go on to get yourself some basic stuff. City names, potentially powerful NPCs, random adventure ideas, stuff like that. And then I can kind of fill in the rest and use my creativity. Full homebrew is really difficult because you got to come up with your overall world. God structure, potentially. You've got cities, villages, towns, hamlets, random NPCs for those places. Maybe there's merchants if you want to do shop names. You've got to come up with quests now for it too. On top of, it's a potentially a lot to have to handle for a first time DM. Now, I'd personally be curious what his homebrew rules are to like help nerf and make like counter PCs. Big thing here though is if he will not listen to any concerns, you can either drop the table, which might be preferable as it seems they're not going to be open to changes or like any concerns you bring up. So you're just going to be dealing with this bullshit over and over and over again. Like, I'm not saying your DM has to bend over backwards to change the entire world to make your character fit if it won't fit. But if the table is coming to him with questions or concerns, or if you're requesting some small changes, they should be able to deal with it. And I'm like, small changes might be like a little thing here or there. It's not like obviously like if your DM doesn't have an entire like Underdark built and you're like, my character's from the Underdark and I want a fully built Underdark with, a whole lot of like, your DM as a small change for that might be able to go, cool, an Underdark exists. We're going to come up with a town you were in, and that is going to be like the town you grew up in, and that's all we're really going to focus on this campaign. Like, I don't have the focus for an entire Underdark. But like, if your DM's not willing to at all, that might be a concern because your DM should be open to concerns you have. If you have concerns with the tone or theme, again, that might not just be the table for you because, that might be what they want to run. But if you're like, hey, I've got concerns like this person is causing problems, or I feel like I'm not getting RP time, or I feel like I'm not getting items that I can utilize, or I feel like I'm just not having like time to shine. And if they don't give a crap about that, you're going to have a bad time because your concerns aren't being answered. So you're just kind of suffering there silently now because they won't do anything and it just doesn't get better. And you're just, you're just stuck in it. And I guess if you want to, you can just roll with it and just build something for the campaign and just suffer through it. But just expect to have a bad time. Personally, me, I wouldn't want to waste my time if someone's going to be a stick in the mud and, not take concerns I have into account and at least respond to them. It's not worth dealing with this potentially weekly or monthly or whatever, where it's going to be 4+ hours of just annoyance because you're trying to have fun and you're just not going to have fun. So you might just want to drop it. And being petty and building something like insane to like piss off your DM, that's a real quick way to get focused, hyper-focused, and get that thing killed. And to me, it's not worth it. I personally don't get enjoyment when I'm a player from pissing off my DM. Like, I'm not out there actively like, how can I piss off my DM today? How can I like make them not have a good time? For me, tabletop roleplay is all about, it's collaborative storytelling, good or bad, things that are happening. And for me, it's also, I want everybody to have fun. It's a group activity. I want everybody to enjoy themselves. If everybody's enjoying themselves, we get to continue doing it. And I don't want people to not have fun, including myself. So I'm not going to build something that's going to piss off my DM. I might do something that does cool stuff, or I might think of something that does something strong, but I'm not like, how can I build something that will piss off the DM? Like, I'm not going to do that. It's not fun. It's just a waste of time, in my opinion. But I guess, OP, you do you. If you want to build something that pisses off this DM, do it. And then you can sit there. He can be pissed and not having fun, and you can be pissed and not having fun, and you all can just sulk together for 4+ hours a week or whatever and suffer through it. I don't know. Alright, everybody, that is going to be it for today. Thank you guys all for hanging out. I really greatly appreciate it. I love to see your comments. So please let me know your thoughts on any of these stories we talked about today in those comments down below. If you're interested, I do stream throughout the week on Twitch. I have a link down in the description if you're interested. Otherwise, like if you're enjoying the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed so I show up in your beautiful homepage and inbox more easily. I will see you guys all in the next one, though. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.